Do you? Do you like to look at a dog going to the bathroom? I don't.
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, I just have to reiterate, I just don't think anybody's going to bring anything in here legally obscene. Now, you know, they might hear this and say, ah, here you go, you know, but...
That isn't a challenge.
No, it's not a challenge. It's
Well,
not
what
a
I've
challenge.
noticed is that when the producer sees, they have to sign the form, and every single playback request form has, I accept responsibility, legal responsibility. I am the person who is liable if this is illegal. And that makes them self-censor. You know, they know that they might be pushing the limit, and most of them educate themselves. So they don't want to get in trouble.
You bet. I mean, some of the soundest First Amendment knowledge at CAT rests with the Lemur Brother crowd. I mean, they know the First Amendment
Sure do.
because they're up against it all the time.
Hi, I'm Chuck Roberts. I'm one of the producers of the offending show, and I took some extensive notes on this whole issue. I've been kind of eating, sleeping, and dreaming this issue for about the last month, so forgive me if I'm a little ornery. First of all, Bob, I want to say that I'm very glad you showed tonight, and I think it's important to get the dialogue open and going. A couple of things I've got to say. I've read your original complaint. I have been told that you revised it a couple of times, but I'm merely going on your original complaint. And I hope you don't mind my asking, but is this a complaint or is it a political power play? That's one thing I just wanted to kind of ask. The main reason, there are a few reasons I was wondering that, but I guess the main one is that in the context of the complaint, you ask the CAT manager a couple of very loaded questions. One is, do you consider this show acceptable material for this community? And a couple of the things that I don't know, that to me almost comes over like the riddle of the Sphinx, because the show was made by members of the community, for one, and second of all, the CAT manager does not dictate what is acceptable material for the community. That's part of policy. As a former CAT board president, you know this, so why are you asking the question? And the second question you asked is, why should the city underwrite a station that is not sensitive to local community standards? And a better question might be, in my opinion, why should a diverse, culturally advanced city underwrite a community access station that would marginalize or exclude certain factions of the community? Now, just for purposes of clarification, I too know the Miller obscenity test, and just kind of wanted to answer a few of the things to say about it is, the complaint cites prurient interest, the prurient interest test, and I kind of want to ask, who's prurient interest? Barnyard animals? Okay, there were shenanigans with marital aids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They were not the focus of the show. They were purely incidental. Applying this to the show, taken as a whole, I mean, I'm not sure I really get that. That was actually just a tiny little bit of the show. Despite utilization of the Miller obscenity test, I've noticed that you never actually came out and used the word obscene. You went through all the steps to prove obscenity, but you substituted the word offensive for obscene in several places. And offensive placed in this context comes to carry little to no legal weight.
No.
No.
Okay.
Everybody, all my sphere of friends are opposed to the programming on CAT.
All the programming?
Except for the one little thing about the little, girls learning how to be little ladies over there at this historical
They don't like the
house.
Hare Krishna.
I'm sorry? Hare Krishna? No, I
I
don't
mean, I
think.
don't know, when they say they don't like anything on cat, what are they talking about?
Well, they're scared to watch it because they might see something
scared
nasty,
to
Richard.
watch it?
Yes, and we don't like to watch nasty stuff on TV because we're nice little girls.
I can-
Call them to say, please remove me because I do not want to have this kind of programming in Fayetteville, Arkansas, which is a crown jewel of the Ozarks. It is, but we want it pristine. We don't want it smutty.
I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I have no real oratory skills. Probably the best thing I have going for me is that I know how to use information as a weapon.
I understand free expression, I understand content, neutral, etc. But I tell you what, sometimes when I watch it and there's no message, it's two drunk guys in lawn chairs in the middle of the night just cussing at each other. I'm thinking, where is the where is the First Amendment need? Where's the exercise for freedom of expression here? But there's stuff on there that, what on earth? There's no message at all, even a bad message. I'd rather see a bad message than what they're doing.
And despite the claims otherwise, the slaps values are solidly in place. Whenever I produce the show, whenever we produce the show, we take that kind of thing into consideration. Socio-political polemic was used throughout the show. The pantomime you cite was political satire, and there was about a 5-minute preamble to it that pretty much points it out as political satire, aimed at the very community standards you're expressing or invoking here. Satire has artistic merit. The Parade of Virtues was blatant satire. Participation by callers in the viewing audience has social value, and that I pointed out on several occasions that the callers were members of the community was very deliberate. The pre-recorded bit was a well-edited barrage of images with fringe culture sound bites. It was artistically done and gave ideas and opinions not often found in mainstream media. There were also segments promoting local musicians and films. This is an artistic and social service. I think that's pretty much all I've got to say.
And that means more or less just what it says, is that you can't decide to let somebody use a camera because they're going to do a nice community show versus someone who's going to go out and shoot a dead pig. So the content of the program that is going to be made with that camera equipment can have absolutely no effect on when that person gets that camera, whether they get the better camera. Any of those decisions cannot be based on the program itself, on the content of the program. And a lot of times, I don't think anybody at this table really has that problem, but a lot of times when new board members come in, or when the community first discovers public access, they get excited and they want to put good programs on the channel. Well, there is no good program or bad program when it comes to public access. You don't get to make those decisions.
But there's stuff on there that, what on earth? There's no message at all, even a bad message. I'd rather see a bad message than what they're doing.
What bothers me is the shock programming. And I think you know exactly what I'm talking about.
The shock programming, and I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, she's proven conclusively throughout this roundtable she has no idea what she's talking about, but she's concerned about the shock programming, and we're all supposed to know exactly what she's talking about. Let me go over some of the shock programming and a lot of the people who just sit around and say, how are we going to offend people this week? Let me see. Well, there's us, the Abbey of the Lemur. We've done some things that push people's buttons over the years. Back early on, there was one show we did in a commercial chicken house where we basically went in there with a camera and showed everyone exactly what it looks like. And the farm manager in question, or the former farm manager, actually killed a few of the injured chickens, which is part of what he did, take the injured chickens and put them out of their misery before the other chickens jumped on them, raped them, and killed them and ate them, which is what happens in a commercial chicken house. We got some complaints from some animal rights people. Personally, I think those people should have given us a medal because they're opposed to this factory farming kind of thing. And we showed them pretty much without any, in no uncertain terms, exactly what happens in those places. I mean, we weren't specifically coming out for it or against it. We just kind of threw it up in your face and said, here it is, do what you want, think what you want. We're not going to lead a horse to water. Another thing we did was this simulated fisting. What we intended to show and kind of demonstrate in kind of a colorful way here was the way the pro-censorship culture war types, pretty much being a lot of the folks sitting at this table here, the way they make people like us who engage in free speech, promote free speech, advocate free speech, want to protect free speech, pretty much the way they make us feel. And we felt it was a pretty funny gag, and that got us railroaded with a bogus obscenity charge, and we were pretty much, I don't know if I want to say acquitted, it never went to court, but we were pretty much vindicated in the deal. It was real obvious that, for anyone who was actually paying attention and watching, it was satire, it was political commentary, it was social commentary, but folks just had to push us on it. Anyway, typical of the Carolyn Longs, the Ann Hannas, the Brian Maloneys, the Johnny Tittles. But another, let's see, those are a couple of instances with Abby of the Lemur. In 2000, Leslie Morris made a movie called Hammurabi, which I played a small role in, and it was basically a story about a rape victim taking revenge on her attacker, and actually got a lot of acclaim, got a lot of notice. The late Trent Trumbo actually tried to argue against CAT being funded because of that. Personally, just great flick that really showed rape as being a bad thing, and kind of really enabled me to ask Mr. Trumbo, so if you're coming out against this little short film that shows rape as being bad, does that mean you're in favor of rape? I'm sure Mr. Trumbo wasn't, but I don't know, it just goes to show the mentality of these pro-censorship types. We had a movie called The Buckeye by Jet Black, and that was a pretty interesting flick, really relevant in the culture war sense, and also when you look at what was going on in Fayetteville at the time with the smoking ban and everything else, kind of said a lot about trying to control people's behavior, and and a lot of the people sitting at this table would actually be the foils in that movie, kind of interestingly enough. Shannon did this kind of erotically charged art film called Automaton, which I was in and I helped out a lot with, and in fact I edited the thing, and am still to this day really proud of the way it came out. Just fantastic, provocative piece, and I dare anyone to say there's nothing artistic about it. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of the shock programming that Carolyn Long knows so much about.
Producer who tried to sneak one under the radar, as it were, and put some obscene sexual scenes, little snippets in one of his programs, and then of course it was pulled. It is okay for us, of course, to go through the review process and to pull obscene programming containing obscene content.
Well, if it's the same snippets I'm thinking of, what was that guy's name? Rod?
yeah,
Is that who it was, Rod? Those weren't obscene. And I know what they were, and they were not obscene.
'Cause I think
Have
that's
you
the
ever
problem.
seen anything like that on HBO? Yes. If you've seen it on HBO, it's not obscene.
Because that's the thing, I think that people feel they get the words offensive and
Yeah.
obscene confused.
Obscene is a word that stands alone as a legal term, meaning you can outlaw it. And everything short of that, and trust me, everything is short of that. I mean, when we're talking about obscenity, we're talking about bestiality and some other things that I won't talk about, right now, because it would offend people. But as we said last summer when we were talking about this, if you go and read the Arkansas law on obscenity, it will offend you because it describes in detail what might be found obscene. But what that was nudity. And it, maybe nudity of parts of a man some of us don't want to see, but it was not obscene.
A former cable administrator once said that you couldn't show an erection.
That's not true.
Okay.
That's not true. They do it in New York all the time.
Well, I'm a concerned citizen, and I have a question for Mr. Roberts.
Okay.
And I was wondering what he thought the worth of his show was.
There are pretty much historical precedents ranging from the Dada art movement from just after World War I to the punk movement to the situationist art movement in France in the 1970s that pretty much said it is. And I don't know, maybe overall kind of a look at the lost America, or possibly also kind of a gut reaction to what we see going on in the world today.
Chuck, have you come up against this content bugaboo as a producer?
Oh, have I ever? Yeah, I've basically fought my guts out for 6 years to defend what I do. So, and at times it's been quite the uphill battle.
And you're coming at it sort of from a different angle than...
Yeah, you could say that.
What have you found in what you have tried to do and what you've tried to get on the air? Have you gotten resistance, and at what level?
I wouldn't say I've gotten resistance from CAT. Generally, they've been pretty supportive. There have been points in time when people have kind of kindly taken me aside and said, listen, folks are a little upset because you said this, this, and this, and this situation is probably why they're upset. And I'd be like, well, I guess, I don't know, a hypothetical situation was, one of the big things we come up against is folks taking some of our jokes or some of the things we say a little too literally. And one former CAT manager just kind of took me aside and kindly said at one point, the problem with people taking things literally is you have to understand we've got this situation where you've got this kid out in California who just shot up his school, and he talked about it the other day, and no one did anything about it because folks thought he was joking. And our response to that was basically to go out and do a 90-minute show telling people exactly what we thought of school shootings, and folks weren't necessarily comforted by it.
A lot of people think about what it's going to be like when it comes down, and they're thinking in terms of black helicopters and spunk white boxcars with no serial numbers, things like that. It's much worse than that. It's worse than you could think. The only comfort the conspiracy has is the deal they made with the Exodus boils down something to the effect of, oh, we really like you guys, that's why we're going to eat you last. No, brethren, I tell you, it's much more worse and much more abominable than you think. Brothers and sisters, what are you going to say when you find out that the conspiracy has resurrected him, has reanimated him, a la Herbert West, as a force for evil, as a force for slacklessness? Yeah, you love that ha-cha-cha, but what are you going to do when the reanimated Jimmy Durante is in your face, got you up against the wall, and he's saying, ha-cha-cha-cha, I hate your guts. Ha-cha-cha-cha, who's going to be the first to die? It's happening. It's even more insidious than the black helicopters, ladies and gentlemen. But ICOP is ready. Riding down the 33rd parallel, out in White Sands, you see those bleached mountainsides, and you see exactly the fruits of the conspiracy.
This I can just turn on, and it's great. Boy, some of the range of things I see on public access is just blows my mind. You haven't seen the show? you gotta watch it. It's a very, I mean, it shows entertaining.
Trap me here, yeah.
No, it's not trap you.
Well, it's like I'm kidding. One of our councilmen was quite concerned, and he showed me one of the shows. You know, one time, we won't get into that, you know, just as a
Yeah, that
concern.
was a short film that a friend of mine made.
Well, I think Greg Harton did a very good article last Sunday and really captured what maybe the problem is.
That makes one of us.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you don't know the depth of the evil that you're looking at. It just... The machines of gods in the hands of monkeys is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. You drive down that barren wasteland and it's just black glass! Black glass! And people wonder why I go around wearing this fake blood on my face like I do. So it's me weeping for the future, folks.
When I was young, my mother told me not to question authority. Don't fight the system, she told me. They'll get you every time. My guidance counselor said gas and grapes don't mix. When it was my head I was trying to fix. Mother Nature, it ain't what you told me. It hurts me when you lie. I'm just leaving with what I came with. All the king's rules I'm rearranging. Suing Mother Nature, 'cause I'm jaded. The promise she gave me, I'm through taking. When I was young, I stood on a ledge and laughed. Dad got to take me if he asked. Now I deal with mortality, a bad case of reality. And then I thought you could master yourself, pass your problems to someone else. Mother Nature, it ain't what you told me. It hurts me when you lie. I'm just leaving with what I came with. All the king's rules I'm rearranging. Suing Mother Nature, 'cause I'm jaded. The promise she gave me, I'm through taking. I'm just leaving with what I came with. All the king's rules I'm rearranging. Suing Mother Nature, 'cause I'm jaded for life. I'm just leaving with what I came with. All the king's rules I'm rearranging. Suing Mother Nature, 'cause I'm jaded. Promise she gave me, I'm through taking. I'm just leaving with what I came with. All the king's rules I'm rearranging. Suing Mother Nature, 'cause I'm jaded.